The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. 7 minutes after 12 midday. We're open line today through till 1. Remember, tomorrow it's North Douglas constituency Mannin Line. Both MHKs, John Wannenberg and David Ashford, will be in the studio. So if you want to talk North Douglas or you can't get to the phone, you want to put a message in, 682-631 on the answer phone, or email manninline@manxradio.com. But today we're open line through till what? Must say congratulations to Douglas Central MHK and Corlett, who's received unanimous backing to become the new Deputy Speaker of the House of Keys. Of course, Daphne Kane, who replaced Julie Edge, used to be Deputy Speaker. Now it's Anne Corlett. So congratulations to Mrs. Corlett for that. To get to the lines now, John's first with us now. Hi, John.
Afternoon, Andy. How you doing?
Good, thanks, yeah.
You're sounding very good.
Oh, thank you very much. The day is early. It's all downhill.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. You've got to be positive. We've heard just recently about the Chief Minister and a vote of no confidence, and indeed it was mentioned on the news about it. What I find particularly interesting is that the Chief Minister is actually saying all external debate about his position should be stifled and it should be taken into Tynwald, where you've got 24 members, where effectively, as I see it, he can mentally influence those members. However, if you think about it, these MHKs are actually doing what they were elected to do, to represent their constituents. So they're asking their constituents. So I can't see how the Chief Minister can complain about that. Now, he's saying that social media isn't a good thing. So let's put it another way. Manx Radio did a survey or a poll or whatever you want to call it about the bishop. Do you remember that some time ago?
Yeah.
How about Manx Radio does a poll for the population of the Isle of Man of the current MHKs? Who would the population like to see as Chief Minister?
Well, we do have facility. I think the newsroom have done something in the past where they open a social media poll. I mean, the problem is with social media polls, everybody who's not on social media says you're excluding me.
Well, yes, this is true. But, you know, if, for instance, you could have an email address or something like that so people could send in an email or a text or, you know, something like that. So there are other means of communicating with you.
So do you think this current... and remember, this was prompted in part by the fact that Julie Edge was sidelined from her role and criticised the Chief Minister. Do you think this the current this current line of thought and debate is merited? Do you think there's any good that can come of it?
Yes, I do. I don't think the Chief Minister is actually doing what the population of the island wants him to do. He's doing his own thing, and he's just charging along, and he's been said to, you know, look, maybe we should take a step back and think about things before we just charge headlong into it. But he sounds very arrogant and forthright on the radio or whenever you hear him speak. And I'm just going to do what I want, is the impression that he gives, well, to me at least.
Yeah, I mean, the Isle of Man system, if you like, the constitution is such that, you know, we don't have political parties, or we do, but they're very minority parties. We have 24 independent, mostly independent MHKs. So, as you say, that'll be sorted out when Keys is elected. They will sort it out amongst themselves who's going to be Chief Minister, and consensus politics is really what tends to follow. Are you hinting, or are you saying that the consensus has broken down?
Yes, I think so. We've got much of a dictatorship. That's how I see it. One analogy I use is that every 5 years the population gets invited into the foyer of the Gaiety Theatre, allowed to look through the windows to see the pantomime carrying on, and then kicked out for another 5 years. We as the people, as the population, don't actually get much to say. And half the problem is, okay, we elect the MHKs, and that's where the disconnect appears. because MHKs then take their opinion. So I don't know how else to explain it, but it's much like the population is all kept out.
That's probably the same in most places. I mean, you wouldn't suggest, would you suggest that an MHK is merely a delegate of the population?
Okay, define the word delegate.
Well,
what does delegate mean?
Basically, reflecting each particular view of each particular voter.
Isn't that meant to be democracy?
Well,
I know you can't take 1,000 people and have 1,000 different views because nothing would work then.
Yeah. that would tend to suggest then that if an MHK has got a different view to a particular voter, that's the wrong MHK.
Well, that's it. I've heard on the radio people saying if they knew Laurie Hooper was going to go and remove the vote of the bishop, they would never have voted for him. So in that instance, what you've got there is Laurie Hooper's got his own agenda, which is different to the people who elected him. So then clearly there's something wrong there. And
the same has been said about Dr. Allenson and his private member's bill for assisted dying.
Exactly, yes. So what's the point of voting for MHKs if they go and do something differently to what they ask the people to, how do I rephrase that? They give their manifesto, the people believe it, and then vote for them, and then the MHK goes and does something differently. What's the point of that? It's just a charade, really. That's not democracy.
So what do you think is the next step forward, John?
I think one way to do it, and whether it be an early election, new election, I don't know. But I think during the elections, you should have all the MHKs or prospective MHKs, and on that election, you should have also for the chief minister, so I don't know, say you've got 4 MHKs on the ballot, and one of them says, I'm going to go for a chief minister if I'm elected as an MHK. So you could vote for whoever, and then yes or no for that prospective chief minister. And more importantly, and I've heard this said before, there should be none of the above on the ballot.
So you think, just to reiterate, if somebody has an ambition to be chief minister, that should be on the voting slip?
Yes, because at the moment we don't know what we're going to get.
Interesting.
Who are we going to get? We have no idea.
Okay.
And is it a case of, what's the whole point of this? Is it the way the people of the Isle of Man want the island to go, or is it of a few select individuals?
Interesting. Okay, John, I appreciate your call. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right, now it's 14 minutes past 12. Howard's with us. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. Now, just listen to John there. He's speaking a lot of sense. The ministerial system, well, it started out, what was his name, Miles Walker, many years ago, and it's gradually slid down from what it was going to be a ministerial system to a dictatorship. And now, as they're going in, plus the fact that everybody is paid an equal wage now, whether in a ministerial post or not, there's no ambition to help and to progress. They all just seem to be standing around in a circle and arguing between themselves. There's the chief minister now, and as I've heard it more and more and more, he is becoming more dictatorial and arrogant.
One of the reasons that they flattened out the pay, I think, was that there was criticism that the chief minister of the day had privilege in his hand or her hand, in that they could hand out ministerial positions which came with more remuneration, if you like. They
Correct.
had their hands on. So it meant then that people criticised some ministers because, they thought that they'd obviously toe the line because the chief minister held their salary in their hand. So it was flattened out for that very reason. But now, as you say, everybody's getting the same, virtually the same.
Yeah, but they're paid on a spine, and they should have been left as it was. They originally went in and raised the wage structure or the salary structure to allow the man in the street to join the government.
Yeah.
Previous to that, it was all business people who were doing it either for a hobby or for the goodness of the island.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's gradually, I'm saying now, rapidly deteriorating to a point where the people are being told what to do, and it's no longer becoming a democracy.
So do you think, in the old days of EXCO, the Executive Council and the boards, was that a better way of doing it?
Well, they were held accountable. Nowadays, they're made of Teflon and nothing sticks to them. And one of the other things there, too, our Chief Minister, for many years, he was head of the Civil Service Commission on the island, which means he has a lot of friends within the civil service. And strings can always be pulled. There's favours to be asked and favours to be requested. I'm not saying there's any monetary gain or anything like that. I wouldn't suggest that. But having worked within the Civil Service Commission and being head of it, there is a discrepancy there. But you look at the number of ministers in the cabinet, and there's a large percentage of them from the north of the island. And it makes you wonder just what is happening within our own government.
Interesting, because, it may be complete coincidence, but when all the kerfuffle over the southern swimming pool was happening, it was noticeable that the nearest minister would have been Jane Paul Wilson in Middle.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They seem to be largely congregated around the north. And there's the Treasury, there's the Health, and now you've got Daphne Kane in the Education. Yeah. All powerful bodies.
Well, 2 in Aaron Michael and 2 in Ramsey. That's 4 of the big ones in the north there. That's
50% of the cabinet. Which is a powerful means to follow. And I had the greatest respect for Alf Cannon's father, David, but he seems to have got to a point now where he seems to be indispensable. And what does he say? No man is indispensable, but if he is, he's up to no good. And but that's not what I come on for anyway. One of your listeners may remember this. It was said when the Roundhouse was being built, constructed, when it's finished and it's active, they didn't present how the people were going to get into it, but what they did say, over the weekends when the Palatine Clinic is not operational, the people coming to the Roundhouse can use the car park at Palatine. Now, I could be wrong, but as far as I know, the only way you can access is through the hospital grounds. It's either coming in from the west side or coming in from a bigger roundabout on the Douglas side, and that way into the Palatine car park. And that was going to be used, in the words of somebody on a radio, not necessarily your radio program, but Manx Radio. It was either one of the MHKs or one of the Braddan Commissioners. So there must have been an inkling of people being allowed to access it through the hospital roads.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Howard.
Take care. Bye now.
Good to hear from you. You can probably find out because the Vice Chair of Braddan Commissioners is with us. Faster Mike, good afternoon. It's Peter Scott. Hi, Peter.
Good afternoon, Andy. Thank you for taking my call. What I'd like to do, there's been a lot of debate recently, quite rightly, about the problems up at the Roundhouse, about the access. And what I'd like to do is give the public Braddan's perspective. And now what I'm going to say is not my opinion, it is irrefutable facts. So as regard the access, the government or certain members of the government have been shouting from the rooftops that we can't use the road access to access it. In 2016, there was a report from some expert traffic engineers called Brian Hall, commissioned by the department, which included the impact of tall trees and the Roundhouse on the government grounds, and it was presented to the department before Howard Quayle made his decision to give us permission to use the hospital roads for access. We still haven't been given a copy of this report, but our clerk was at a meeting where it was discussed, and they said any increased traffic from these two buildings could be managed. They did also say it needed more footpaths on the hospital grounds, and they haven't put any in 8 years. Now, this road that they say we need to put in, it comes across a piece of land which is owned by the government. First of all, we're not allowed to build a road on somebody else's land. We have to buy the land. It was valued over a month ago. We still haven't been told in a month how much it is. We have been told we cannot go on it. If we go on it, we'll be trespassing. And we need to go on it to clear the bracken and the bushes and a couple of trees to see what's underneath it for get price for the road. And within a month, we won't be allowed to it because of this bird nesting problem season. So they're shouting from the rooftops saying we've got to have a road, yet they are putting objections in the way of us progressing it. So you've got to ask the question, why? The other thing was about the crossing that the Minister mentioned yesterday or the day before regarding planning permission. Well, we already have 3 crossings on Braddan Road and Bowles Road. And if you consider that on Peel Road, opposite the Spa shop, there's a crossing there, exactly the same with an island. And we've been trying to get a pedestrian crossing there, and they said what's there is okay. Now, how is it okay on Peel Road, which is a major road, yet compared with that, Braddan Road is a country lane, and we got to put another one in. Now, as regards the DOI, we asked them for plans for a crossing, and they said, no, you've got to provide your own. We have spent £10,000 having plans done when they, at the DOI, has probably got a drawer full of plans for crossing. They've had the crossing details now for ages, and we're still waiting them to be passed. So how can we build a crossing until they pass the thing? And if you consider Cool Road, where there's a crossing up by Robinson's and Riley's, it's there for the benefit of the businesses, and that was put in by the government without a cost to anybody. We have a community one, which they're telling us we have to pay for ourselves, which personally I don't think it is necessary. If you're coming by bus from the west, you get off the bus on the right side of the road. If you're coming from Douglas side, you get off just before Palatine, and you walk through into Palatine, and there'll be a path from Palatine's car park. And while I'm talking about Palatine, however, was quite correct. We do have permission to use Palatine when they're closed as an excess car park.
I think, Peter, most of the public, well, I'll just praise here for 2 questions. First, number 1 is, how has it come to this? And number 2 is, when is it going to be resolved?
Well, to answer those questions, I haven't got a crystal ball. The commissioners are sat waiting to talk to the people. All we get is no answers, although you can't get no answer, but you know what I mean. But the other things, when is it going to be resolved? They say that they're going to block the road next Monday. Well, we're disputing whether they can do it. If they do it, there'll be an injunction going in. And it was a road long before the hospital was there, and if it's a public road, they can't block it. But this is the threat we're put up to. They talk about the ambulances being disrupted. No ambulances use West Drive. Ambulances either use South Drive or the main drive. And when you consider, for 3 years, there's been heavy construction traffic of cement wagons, you name it, dozens of vans in and out. And as far as we're aware, there's never been any issue at all.
Peter, can you tell us what's the feeling like among Mr. Jessup, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Mellon and Mr. Quay? What's the feeling like between you all over this?
Frustration. We're bending over backwards to do things, and we've come to Manx Care. Their safety officer came out with mitigation circumstances, which we've done up to his standard. And just to tell you how ridiculous it is, they wanted 2 lights putting up on West Drive. There are 6 lights on West Drive not working. So you put your own house in order first before you start telling other people. We're waiting, bending over backwards to do things and get things sorted. We cannot issue leases while this threat of a road closure is over us. We need that rescinding, and then we can go ahead and start doing things. And when you consider, Andrew, just finally, the swimming pool down at Castletown spent £450,000. Whatever it costs, I'm sure it's worthwhile. We've never had a penny from the government, not a penny. The Roundhouse will employ at least 25 people who will pay income tax, national insurance and VAT. We'll be putting money into government coffers, not taking it out. And so we've had 1 or 2 MHKs come up and have a look. And of course, I would say this, but they're all tremendously impressed with the facilities up here, waiting to open. So I'd like to give an open invitation to any other MHK or MLC to come up and have a look and see what they're missing. There is a requisition meeting on the 17th of March, and there'll be a timeline with all the details put in before that, hopefully about a week before that, so people can see that and understand what's going on.
Where's the requisition meeting going to be held?
At the Roundhouse.
Good. That's...
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to say the requisition meeting is at 7 o'clock. Come at 6:30, and you'll be shown round the facilities that we have, and you will be amazed. Every weekend the sports hall is jam-packed. We even have a baby shower this weekend in one of the rooms, but we cannot issue leases until we've been advised legally not to issue leases until this has been rescinded. Now, I would like anyone who feels a little bit more informed, get in touch with their MHK and ask them why this is going on.
Okay,
because
all right.
One of the things Mr. Cannon's been asked to do is listen to the public.
We appreciate that, Peter. Thanks for coming on and putting that point of view and the facts before us. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
It's 12:30 on Mannin Line. This is Manx Radio.
It's good to talk. It's how we get things done. So when you apply for a personal loan from Black Horse, you'll get support from one of our relationship managers who's there to talk you through your application. You could borrow up to £50,000 with up to 7 years to pay it back, and you could receive your money within 24 hours of approval. Ready to talk? Go to blackhorseoffshore.co.uk to request a call back today. Finance subject to status. Applicants must be 18 or over.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows letting rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
How do you really get to feel healthier? Eat healthier. ShopRite's Healthy Choice ranges make it easy and truly enjoyable. All over our chillers and freezers, food that even sounds better for you. Like the Gym Kitchen protein-packed frozen meals, Plant Chef plant-based chilled and frozen food, and free from ranges across the store from pasta to cereal. Better for you doesn't have to mean boring anymore. Try our range of healthier alternatives. Available now at ShopRite.
EPS just finished painting our house and we're delighted with the result.
Very impressed with the speed, quality and standard of work.
We would recommend EPS highly.
House looks like new.
Brilliant job from start to finish.
EPS, transforming properties island-wide with a revolutionary Protex wall covering system, guaranteed for 10 years. Visit eps.company for details. There's a waiting list, but it'll be worth it.
A good job well done.
Thank you, EPS.
Tonight, here on Manx Radio, join Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark, at 6 o'clock for Countryside.
We hear from Ruth Mead from Red My Farm to talk about her Lockton's meat going into Robinson's.
And I talk to one of the ex-skippers of the Mezeron fleet, Norman Leese, to find out the challenges and difficulties of navigating the boats around the Irish Sea.
That's all in Countryside tonight here on Manx Radio at 6 o'clock. And don't forget, you can download and subscribe to the podcast for free at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good afternoon. David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just a couple of comments on the budget special that you had on Friday, and also the two-tier pension system that we're now developing here. 11 minutes into the broadcast, Mr. Cannon said that everybody in receipt of a Manx pension will be £979 better off, which that's a fair uplift if you're a pensioner. And Dr. Allinson didn't query it, or anybody else in your studio. The only thing is, what he failed to tell people was you needed 35 years national insurance to get that. If you've got 12 years national insurance and you're retired, next year you'll get a third of that. So it was very misleading, and I'm just wondering why Mr. Allinson didn't step in and say, I needed to correct you on the facts.
So that £18.83 per week uplift is only with 35 years NI?
Yes. So if you've got, say, 12 years, you're only going to get a third of it.
Right.
So it's like £300 uplift. And then the other thing is, if you retired in April 19, you'd have got £53, these are all approximate, £53 pension supplements. If you retired in April this year, which is the financial year Mr. Cannon's talking about, your Manx pension supplement goes down by 5% per year, so it's approximately £700 less than if you retired in 19, which means you're £979 now. You're going to have taken off your £700 from the pension supplement. So it's looking very shaky for people who are retired in the future, because there will come a point in time where we'll have a set of pensioners on £50-odd a week and some pensioners coming down to zero when it eventually gets there.
Run through that again, David, will you?
The Manx pension supplement is an addition to your pension because of the cost of living on the island.
Right.
Now, if you retired in April 19, it was £53 a week, roughly. If you retire this April, it's £39.64, which is approximately £700 less than if you'd retired 5 years ago. And this is going down every single year. But it wasn't very well publicised when they decided to reduce the Manx pension supplement. And the reason it was here is because of the cost of living. Now, the cost of living has done anything other than go up. So I think it needs to be highlighted that this is going to be a disaster for some pensioners in the future compared with people who are retiring now and in 2019 or previous to that.
And what conclusion do you think those pensioners are going to draw?
Well, the people who have been told that they're going to be nearly £980 better off, unless they realise that it's only with a full 35-year national insurance contribution that you'll get that, and then you'll have to do a calculation to see what you will get.
Okay, right. Well, thanks for straightening that out.
just one other thing. At that same meeting, somebody asked the question, how come the high net worth individuals are not being asked to contribute any more this year? And I just thought it was an absolute poor show on Mr. Allison's part that he said there's only 50 or 60 of them on the island. Now, some of these people are not millionaires, they're billionaires. And to say that there's only 50 or 60 of them here, and that's why we didn't bother asking them to contribute any more, when if you're a nurse or a bus driver and you're paying your national insurance and your tax, or if you work overtime and you've got to contribute more, why is... Because there's only 50 or 60 of these people, it wasn't worth them asking them for more money, because they're the people that could afford to pay the most on the island.
And you could, that could have been done. I'm not being facetious, but that could have been done in a ring round. You could have spoken to those people individually, and I think they break down into two people. There are some high net worth individuals over here that have got businesses that employ people, raise tax and NI and what have you, but there are people who are here just because of the tax regime. So
of course, yes.
It'd be easy, surely, to go to them and just say, look, do you think you could, would you mind sparing a few extra bob? Would it be that much of an inconvenience? They can only say no.
Well, they shouldn't be given the opportunity to say no. The bus driver hasn't got the opportunity to say no, or the nurse, or people working in hospitality or in a nursing home. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And to say to somebody who's a billionaire, give us £200,000 and we'll call it quits, is paying 0.001% of what a nurse pays.
You see, nobody quite knows, because they all talk about golden passports in Portugal, which I think have gone now. But that's a kind of regime whereby people were given tax incentives to go and plonk their high net worth backside in other countries. We don't know how much it would take of a burden for them to clear off from the Isle of Man. Some of them may be completely in love with the Isle of Man and would stay come what may.
Yeah, but if you compare it to the UK, I think the most you pay in the UK now is 47% tax. So even if you ask them to pay 20% tax, they're still saving a vast amount of money. Even if you ask them to pay just 10% of what they've earned. Because we've got this ridiculous situation now with this Baroness that the family made £60 million more in 1 year on top of the vast wealth. And that £60 million, if it comes to the Isle of Man, not one penny of that will be asked to be put into the tax or the national insurance system, because if you pay the £200, it's finished with, which is wrong.
Okay. All right. We appreciate it. Thanks for that, David. No, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for calling today. And from one David to another. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. I just wanted to slightly defend the Chief Minister and the issue he's got now. He definitely has. We do have keyboard warriors in the Isle of Man, which stirred up issues. But I'd like to say to the people out there who are listening, it's the team the Chief Minister's got around him. And that's not just the Council of Ministers. It's the members. And I think a little hint from Mr. Cameron's statement this morning was he may be looking to suggest, or the ministers should be suggesting, a change of membership in their own departments. I wonder how many members are not actually doing anything, involving themselves in the department, say in education. I welcome the change of Daphne coming in there, Mrs. Kane there. I hope she will address the bullying that's happening in schools, which has been identified. And the other issue is, too, regarding vaping in schools there. And I'll just quickly flip. In the UK, I've been told now that the manufacturers have come to a settlement now where they're doing the same as kids with smoking and drinking, and you've got to be a certain age. Now, why aren't our government or the Home Affairs Minister just saying, let's follow the same route? We're still waiting for royal assent. I'm sure the King's not sitting on it there. I just wonder where it is so we can address these particular issues. I feel we're not addressing stuff as we're going along, and it's down to, in my opinion, sometimes the members not engaging and how many members are in departments are doing something.
And again, we sit on the outside. You have been on the inside. I mean, it is fairly... it's fairly common, or shall I say it's not entirely unknown, that lots of politicians can't bear the sight of other politicians. So hearing that people are gunning for Mr. Cannon is surely, it's no big surprise, is it? It's happened all the time.
It does. And like I say, I'd say to people out there, right, what's the team we've got in at the minute? And you look at that team right across the board and you think, who's going to do a better job? Who's going to pull things together?
And that's the point, David. I think the fact is that, there's nobody gets on a bus that, the destination of which is anywhere other than here. You get on a bus that's got a destination, and at the moment, Mr. Cannon has a destination on the front of his bus. Now, some people may disagree with it. Some people may think he's going in the wrong direction, but he's got a direction and he's got a bus. So. A vote of no confidence may take the pressure off. It may take the steam out of the situation, but in the end, it doesn't do us any good because we have to go in a direction. We can't stay still.
No. The final thing I'll say is, I don't know how many members actually voted for the plan, but I think 95% of them did. So what's the issue, and why are they not making sure the plan can be delivered? And I still feel for Braddan Commissioners, and Mr. Hooper should hang his head in shame that he's stopping something happen which will support the community and everybody that lives in the community. That's the wrong way to move. And somebody needs to stand up to him and say to him, look, Minister, I think we used to in the old days, Minister, you've got it wrong. You shouldn't be doing it.
OK, thanks, David.
Bye.
Got a note in from Peter, the Vice Chair of Braddan Commissioners. That meeting is on the 17th, by the way. The requisition meeting is at the Roundhouse in Braddan on the 11th of March, not the 17th of March. So this is what Mr. Cannon had to say this morning. In recent days, where we've heard from MHKs, they gauge whether a vote of no confidence, there is a facility for it, in the Chief Minister is in the public's interest. Following the sacking of Julie H. from Comyn and the response to the budget, Alfred Cannon's position has been called into question by some people. He was on Manx Radio's breakfast show live this morning, and he was asked bluntly whether he's considering his position.
Well, I'm certainly not above scrutiny. I'm not above challenge, and I'm certainly not infallible. That's the first thing I would say. And the second thing I would say is that, I really do think that the 2 or 3 MHKs who are driving this on Facebook should really bring this matter properly to the House of Keys and to the floor of Tynwald. And it should be part of proper, robust debate. I don't think the current positioning really is helping confidence, and I certainly don't think it's really helping the island tackle some of the big issues. And the second thing, I did want to speak to your listeners this morning, or to say to them, look, as I said, clearly I have responsibilities to do the right thing in terms of the management of the Council of Ministers. I am part of a collective, and we are driving forward a quite ambitious plan. But the last 2.5 years have been also, I think, for all of us, government and for the public and for businesses and for private individuals, quite seismic. It's less than 2 years ago that we were exiting COVID. In fact, this council was dealing with the Omicron variant and trying to take us out from COVID, and there's been a huge numbers of legacy issues that have been left behind, including connectivity, of course, a housing crunch, problems with the workforce, healthcare, education impacts. We've had a war in Ukraine. We've had to deal with a significant change to the financial landscape, and of course had a big credit crunch and financial impact on people's lives and in government finances and of course business. And we've also had we've had a very difficult employment tribunal, which has caused a lot of grief and a lot of soul searching and indeed a lot of changes. But on top of that, we've had to bring forward a very ambitious plan. But listen, I would say to everybody, look, keep going. We are getting through this. There are brighter days ahead. I know there are a lot of problems. Council of Ministers know there are a lot of problems. There's still a lot for government to get to grips with, but a lot of plans and foundations have had to be laid in this very, very difficult period.
Chief Minister there this morning on Manx Radio. I just wonder what your thoughts are. Text, email, call and WhatsApp. Is this a sideshow or is there something in it?
Andy Station, Manx Radio.
I wish I had a better savings account.
Did you hear about Skipton International's great rates for their savings accounts?
No, tell me more.
Skipton are currently offering a 5% AER fixed rate account maturing 14th of March 2025.
Wow, that's a really good deal.
It's no wonder Guernsey's bank Skipton International offers some of the best rates around.
For details of all Skipton savings products, call 01481 730 730 or visit skiptoninternational.com. It's time to switch to Skipton. No withdrawals allowed until maturity. Interest is paid annually and upon maturity. Skipton International is licensed to take deposits by the GFSC and is a participant in the Guernsey Banking Deposit Compensation Scheme. See dcs.gg.
Ride in to H&H Motorcycles.
Hello, I'm Nathan Harrison. For motorcycle sales, service, repairs, tyres, suspension including upgrades or full long-term restorations, choose the team that builds race-winning bikes. H&H Motorcycles on South Quay Industrial Estate, Douglas.
Now stockists for Arai, Motul and RST. H&H Motorcycles. Your bike couldn't be in better hands.
Are you tired of looking at your old worn-out flooring? Then you need the red carpet treatment from Castle Carpets. With our expert fitting and friendly, reliable service, let us carpet your castle. Call 842-480 to arrange your free quotation island-wide.
Drive smarter. Drive more reliable. Drive a great deal at Mannin Motors. With a superb range of cars for every budget, always available. And if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
Every Sunday afternoon here on Manx Radio at 4 o'clock, join myself, Simon Clark,
as Mish Phil Gorn,
live with Gullis Gagan. We clarify and translate some Isle of Man place names.
Riet na Slagen. Well, Riet is a view, and then na Slagen is the hills, but in the construction there it means of the hills. So Riet na Slagen, the view of the hills.
Plus we go through some of the Manx words and dialect.
Surely everyone knows Shield, don't they?
Mischief. That's Gullis Gagan live here on Manx Radio every Sunday afternoon at 4.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
11 minutes before 1. Tony's on now. Hi, Tony.
Yeah, hi, Andy. Real quick, I'm not going to stay on long. The comment from Alf Cannon this morning was we had to bring in a new plan, but his new plan doesn't work for the Isle of Man. It might work for his numbers, but it doesn't work for the Isle of Man. You're taxing people more who can't afford it instead of taxing the people who can afford it. So that's not a plan for the Isle of Man. And he didn't have to do what he's done. So I don't think that's a very good comment from him. We had to do something means he had to do it. He wanted to do it. Not we as a nation want to do it. And the other thing I think you've got to ask yourself is, what is Laurie Hooper doing? Because he's not doing his job. He's just not.
In what context?
Well, in all senses. One, the health service is not working properly. We're spending a fortune sending people across instead of building a health service here. We've got an administration which is proposed by a civil servant that we should have more civil servants and more administration than we had before. And it didn't work before. It doesn't work now. It's just more cost. So if you got rid of Manx Care and went back to something that was like the old one and told them, right, stop messing about and fix it, get on with it, you'd probably have saved at least 10 million a year, at least. And you wouldn't have this higher cost all the time because, obviously, Manx Care cannot stay to their budget. They're given a budget. They say we wouldn't need this much money. Whether it's what they get or not, it's not the point.
But nobody, I don't know. I mean, the person who says no to, more medical care, more dentists, more doctors, nobody's going to say no to that. So you're basically in charge of an industry that has unlimited demand.
It's unlimited demand if you keep adding things to it that are not essential. I mean, I'll give you an example. They can now tell you how many people have got coughs. Is that really an essential service? Honestly. You're paying for administrators to sit around a table once a month, and half of them don't live here, and discuss issues that really don't have any impact on a poor person who's sick. We're sending people across, and it's not organised properly because they have to sit in the airport. Both ends often. But we can't fix it as it used to be because they got rid of all the consultants because some bright person thought we shouldn't have consultants working for themselves and the NHS. Instead of it being something where we said we want more consultants to come and live here and make it a private plus NHS service, no, we want it just to be socially. We've got to just do NHS. You can't do your own private stuff.
So what will be your advice to Mr. Cannon right now?
Mr. Cannon should think really hard about what he's put in that budget, or he's allowed his minister to put in the budget, because it's not Alf Cannon's budget, it's his budget, because what he's done is tax people more who can't afford it. And he should be looking at taxing people less who can't afford it and taxing people more who can afford it.
So, I mean...
So he needs to roll back on it.
So obviously the personal allowance has been frozen, which basically it's a stealth tax now because that brings more people into paying tax.
Yeah. And effectively, he's jumped up the tax bracket so that you're paying 2% more. So if I'm on £60,000 a year, like most of the MHKs are, how much extra tax am I contributing compared to the person who's on £22,000 a year and can't afford it? Think about that.
Okay. All right, Tony, we appreciate it.
All right, all the best. Take care, Andy.
Good to hear from you. And Charlie's been waiting very patiently. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, there. This access to the Roundhouse.
Yeah.
I started using that road in the early 70s when I used to play football for Onken to go and play football in the field in front of the Roundhouse. Now, it was a law. It was brought in against Jeremy Clarkson down at Langness for shutting off a footpath. If you've got 21 years of access off a road, it becomes a right of way. And that was taken to court and made Jeremy Clarkson open up the footpaths again. So are the government or health service going against the law?
Well, nobody knows, do they, at the moment? Because from what the Braddan Vice Chair, the Commissioners, was saying, the government's not even speaking to them.
Yes, but the thing is, if Jeremy Clarkson can be prosecuted to open up a footpath that's been had 21 years of use by law, how can Manx Care close a road off that's had more than 50-odd years of use by the general public? The government own the land. The people own the land, not Manx Care.
So do you think, from what was said, they're going to block that road?
Well, they need to go to court and try it out in court because they can't change a law of 21-year access for their own means.
Yeah, but we know what happens when you go to court. The only people that win are the advocates.
Yes, but it'll put civil servants in their place because Manx Care, since the Alaman Health Service went, Manx Care has gone downhill. I asked the chief executive, how many millions did we spend on changing from Alaman Health Service to Manx Care? She wouldn't answer me. I said that money could have been spent on patients, not some whim of the civil servant.
Okay. All right, Charlie, thanks for calling.
Cheers then.
Oh, cheers. Now it's 5-1.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
I don't know whether you spotted that proposed £40 million Sulby Riverside mixed-use project in Ramsey doesn't have planning. It was rejected at the planning committee. Yesterday, that was. We got lots of comments on that. I haven't got time at the moment, but certainly we'll talk about it. Tomorrow, remember, it's Douglas North with David Ashford and John Wallenberg. Some more comments to get through. Bill said the Chief Minister said he'll let people have their say. However, is he listening? That's the point. He just ignored people, says Bill. The Braddan requisition meeting is the 11th of March. Everybody's correcting me now as well. Nobody's noticed. The Manx Labour Party has been very quiet over the budget, says Big John in Laxey. will be good for the Manx Labour Party. Even this rising bus fares for school children is wrong. We're at a point now where we're taxing children. Thanks also to Kay, who just said, I think Mr Hooper gets involved in other issues like the removing the bishop's vote. Now this road at Braddan, he's got more than enough problems at the hospital, which I think he needs to look at. Does Mr Hooper want to be Chief Minister? Well, these people who are trying to bring forward a vote of no confidence are just trying to deflect from themselves. He isn't liked as he's sorting out the wheat from the chaff, says Nellie and Andreas. They should be ashamed. That's it. Thanks to Ben and Chris on the phones today. Stick around. Chris Quirk is on after the news at 1, and we're back tomorrow with Douglas North.
WINT